Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. We are here today to commemorate the brave soldiers who have fought to protect the freedom of you and I and the generations of New Zealanders to come. Today is the 25th of April, the anniversary of the landing at Gallipoli in 1915. Today is about commemorating the ultimate sacrifice made by all New Zealand and Australian forces who have ever served in a military campaign. We've been asked to read an Australian poem that is more emotional, but highlights the horrible realities of war. This poem describes the personal experience of an Australian soldier and the horrors he went through when he was forced to his country. Today is a day to lay our friendly rivalry with Australia aside, as their soldiers fought alongside ours, comrades fighting a common enemy. This poem is from the perspective of a young Australian man, but it could have been the story of any of our Australian soldiers. Thank you. Andrew will read the poem. He is of similar age to many of the young men who served for our country.
Now when I was a young man, I carried my pack, and I lived the free life of a rover. From the Murray's green basin to the dusty outback, well, I waltzed my Matilda all over. Then in 1915, my country said, son, it's time you stop rambling, there's work to be done. So they gave me a tin hat, and they gave me a gun, and they marched me away to the war. And the band played Waltzing Matilda as the ship pulled away from the quay, and amidst all the cheers, the flag waving and tears, we sailed off for Gallipoli.
The excitement he feels about going to war is tangible in this first verse. He is a young man on a grand adventure. Instead, he walked into a horrible nightmare. Gallipoli was a tragedy, such an immense loss of life. Over 7,000 New Zealanders and more than 26,000 Australians were wounded while fighting for our countries. 8,141 New Zealanders, Australian, and 2,721 New Zealanders soldiers paid the ultimate price for our freedom at Gallipoli. The next section of the poem highlights the true horrors our young men experienced.
And how well I remember that terrible day, how our blood stained the sand and the water, and of how in that hell that they call Suvla Bay, we were butchered like lambs at the slaughter. Johnny Turk, he was waiting. He primed himself well. He showered us with bullets, and he rained us with shell. And in 5 minutes flat, he'd blown us all to hell. Nearly blew us right back to Australia. But the band played Waltzing Matilda when we stopped to bury our slain. Well, we buried ours, and the Turks buried theirs. Then we started all over again. And those that were left, while we tried to survive in that mad world of blood, death, and fire. And for 10 weary weeks, I kept myself alive, though around me the corpses piled higher. Then a big Turkish shell knocked me feet over head, and when I woke up in my hospital bed and saw what it had done, I wished I was dead. I never knew there was worse things than dying. For I'll go no more, Waltzing Matilda, all around the green bush far and free. To hump tents and pegs, a man needs both legs. No more Waltzing Matilda for me. So they gathered the crippled, the wounded, the maimed, and they shipped us back home to Australia. The armless, the legless, the blind, the insane, those proud wounded heroes of Suvla. And as our ship sailed into Circular Quay, I looked at the place where my legs used to be. And thank goodness there was nobody waiting for me to grieve, to mourn, and to pity. But the band played Waltzing Matilda as they carried us down the gangway. But nobody cheered. They just stood and stared. Then they turned all their faces away.
The realities of war were far from the grand adventure this young man was expecting. The point of today is to remember the New Zealand and Australian soldiers from the First World War, and also the sacrifices of all soldiers who go to war for our country. As part of the generations these men fought to protect, it is our job and the job of the coming generations to remember and commemorate our heroes, lest we forget.
And so now, every April, I sit on my porch and I watch the parade pass before me. And I see my old comrades, how proudly they march, reviving old dreams of past glory. And the old men march slowly, all bones stiff and sore. They're tired old heroes from a forgotten war. And the young people ask, what are they marching for? And I ask myself the same question. But the band plays Waltzing Matilda, and the old men still answer the call. But as year follows year, more old men disappear. Someday no one will march there at all.
I'd like to invite the choir now to just sing